of the event, it's a challenging time, the final afternoon, because sometimes we've lost people's attention. There's still people having conversations. People may be a little bit tired and sleepy after their risotto with truffle and a little glass of rosé. So I thought it was very smart of the organisers to ensure that we have a particularly inspiring speaker to open the afternoon, somebody who's very accustomed to this kind of event, who has very clear ideas, somebody who knows the yachting industry extremely well, and somebody who has a genuine personal interest in sustainability, not just on a professional level, but also on a personal level. I'm talking, of course, about the chairman and editor-in-chief of the Super Yacht Group, and I pass the microphone to Martin Redmayne.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to listen to a YouTuber, especially when he's 57 years old. Listen, I wanted to be a little bit brutal and a little bit candid, because I feel this is what these opportunities deliver. This is what's called a smart yacht conference. For the last 30 years, we've not built a smart yacht. All right? Energy efficient, very ugly in some cases, and they perform badly. All right? Today should be the day we stop doing that, because we're capable of changing. That comes down to how we work together. I am one of the founding board members of the Water Revolution Foundation. I love the fact we're here in Monaco with the Yacht Club and with the, let's say, this wonderful energy that is in the Yacht Club. But more importantly, hello, more importantly, there is an agenda we have to set. The agenda should start today, where we as the Smart Yacht Conference, I'll stand still. Okay? Perfect. Hi. Thank you. Sorry. No, what it comes down to is how we work together. In this deck, we have very clever people with good ideas, brilliant initiatives, and more importantly, the willingness to change. I just had a nice chat with Max Perotti, and as probably number 3 in the world as a yacht builder. I'm saying that purely because of production capacity, not because of he's 3rd, but he is one of the people I feel will make a difference, because he has a mission that he is driving personally. And to me, that's the key thing. It's a personal mission that we all should adopt. When I listen to Marnix and Case, is that Case? Yeah. That's the first time in a conference my mind has been slightly blown with your project. So thank you. Because it's doable. It is achievable when the right people are together to change the way we think. Because there are several yachts who every day consume energy when they don't need to. Bram's nodding, which is a good sign, because it's this whole process of reduce, reduce, reduce. That is a simple process that the whole world is focused on today. How do we reduce? How do we change the approach to smart yachting? You put it into several layers. New build, number 1. The new build market consumes a huge amount of energy building yachts and creating a supply chain and making the projects come to life. The problem we have, only 10% of the current order book has sustainability or energy efficiency or hybridization as part of their core. The rest are still very conventional, diesel-powered, predictable projects. That's embarrassing. To me, it's embarrassing. Because once again, we're just repeating the same process. So maybe today we should start thinking how the Yacht Club, and all the people linked to the Yacht Club can make that shift by encouraging a dynamic paradigm shift, because we know we can do it. You then take the refit market. The refit market, MB92, yeah! The refit market is the biggest market opportunity we have on our planet today. Our super yacht planet, because the whole world is full of yachts which are not fit for the future. I'm using that. Refit for the future? Sorry, I'm just teasing. But the point is, we have to make those boats fit for the future, because they are now sitting there every day consuming energy, inefficiently, unnecessarily. So repurposing, upgrading, and refitting for the future should be our core objective. because that will make the biggest impact compared to the new build market. 5,000, 6,000 yachts being upgraded for the future is the real saving we can make. Very little has been talked about refit, but maybe next year we will. Because that, to me, is the fundamental dynamic process we can go through. And I look at this in terms of the simple things we can change. Let's say, the energy sources, the energy consumers. It's all easy to retrofit and to upgrade to change the way we think about yachting. But we're not doing it fast enough. And I know from a strategic point of view, the refit yards do not have capacity for the real potential. But in theory, the new build yards will start playing too, and everyone will have this mission to bring the fleet, the current fleet, to a new level. That's an easy fix if we all work together. The other topic on sustainability, which was mentioned a couple of times, is the human capital. People, 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 people. We need a lot more people for our marketplace. Like me and like David, we're all getting old, all right? We're dinosaurs, as everyone said the other day. I think dinosaurs is the word used. But we're still passionate dinosaurs that want to see this industry become smart. For the simple fact is that it's our legacy. For 30 years I've been in this market, and every yacht I've seen come out has been, nah. Occasionally there's a nice one, an interesting one, but nah is a word I like to use when yachts come out that are predictable. The same two engines, the same interior, and the same hull form. A brick that you push through water with big engines. 5% of the year. Doesn't make sense. What are we doing? So I'm trying to use this little platform to say, we're a small group of people, but we all care. We've got very good ideas, very smart ideas, good solutions. But in the next 10 years, if we keep doing what we're doing, that is building 160, 170 boats every single year, which is probably what we expect to do, and what I'm probably forecasting will happen, that means we need another 30 to 40,000 new crew for the future. And those next generation crew will have a different agenda on their mind of how yachts should be operated. So we have to be ready for them. We have to be thinking about what they need and what they want. So all this becomes part of what I call a cycle of evolution. And I want to make sure we evolve in a smart way. I'm going to say one last thing, which is, I think, how's my time? I'm okay? I've got plenty of time. Okay, oh, damn. That's fine. I can talk for hours, you know that. But no, it also comes down to things like waste. I wonder how much waste, energy and material and garbage is generated and wasted through our marketplace. So there's simple things on board we can do to fix that. We can really rethink the way in which we consume. We should ban every single yacht receiving cases of small plastic water bottles. It still happens. Drives me insane. It happens on social media, it happens on all sorts of platforms saying, oh look, there's another delivery to a yacht by a yacht agent. It's a fucking case of plastic bottles. Sorry, that's a French word. But you see, the situation is really crazy. We can generate water in a very efficient way if we just apply a bit of logic. Yet the market is too lazy to adapt and adopt new technology. It's me being a bit brutal, I know, but it's the fact. No yacht should take on board any plastic water bottles. It should be a mandate that we set ourselves for the future, because it's an easy fix. But the market is conditioned that the agent and the provisioner and the supplier and the relationship is, oh, it's what we always do. So stop, basta, no more. Make sure that designers understand that you have to plan into your infrastructure a good water treatment system for drinking water. It just makes sense. And it's a very small contribution, but it makes a good impact. People recognize change. There are little positive increments. So to me, this is the thing we have to really think about. Lots of little things make a difference. Not just one big thing, because that's almost dreaming too far. But we can all make little, small, positive changes that will make sure that we become a smart industry. No, I don't like that. That's embarrassing. I just say what I think. But the most important thing I'm going to say now, which is the fact that I like to reinforce. I focus on yachts over 30 meters, which is the super yacht fleet. 5,600 yachts. Yep, that's the number everyone quotes as being the total current fleet of yachts. About 1,500 of those are over 35 years old. So what I call they're almost an obsolete, depreciated fleet of assets, worth less than a couple of million euros. Old, small, low-value fleet. So we end up with 4,500 yachts, give or take. 4,500 yachts that are owned by less than 3,000 people. So we have 3,000 owners who are invested in our industry. Obviously, people have more than one boat. Some have 7 or 8, some have 12. It's crazy. But there are 350,000 people in the world who could buy a yacht tomorrow, and they choose not to. Because when you look at the economics, the capex, opex, the whole headache that we deliver, it doesn't make sense to them. So we have to rethink and refocus on what the future owner and the future ownership model looks like. Because there's a lot of assets, as we can see them all here, doing nothing. And that's a decision process that the owners will make one day that it doesn't make sense anymore. So we have to look at this in terms of what is the logical approach to the future of our asset use. Otherwise, as I think Nigel said earlier on, they become a, what was the word he used? I can't remember. It's somehow a distressed asset or whatever. Stranded asset. Thank you. Stranded asset. Thank you. So that's a shock treatment statement that he made. But I feel that the most important thing now is we don't get stressed, we don't panic, we just get smarter. We start thinking and communicating that we're doing things that make sense. We start showing people what can be done with a yacht. In terms of when I look at Ocean X's program and obviously the Dragonfly program, they are mind-blowing opportunities for other owners to get inspired and do cool stuff. Anyone heard of Project Dawn? Project Dawn? Yeah, thanks to Mugs. So this is a very, very low-profile, high-profile client who has a fleet of boats under the Dragonfly program, who has built a commercial conversion called Project Dawn. It is a humanitarian project. It is cool. It is all private money doing good things. But unfortunately, we are still labeled with the same image of big white boats in marinas doing nothing. But some of the smart owners do some really smart things. So we need to get smart owners in the Smart Conference next year talking about the future. Because we need to inspire the 350,000 people out there to say yachting is the coolest playground in the world. Not to just have champagne and sunbathe and get burnt asses, but actually do really cool stuff. And to me, that is what our missing ingredients is. Who's in the media in this room here? Put your hand up, Katya. The media is our enemy today. Not her personally. I'm being honest. Every piece of media coverage about yachting is about the interior or about the predictability of the current fleet of boats. They do not tell the coolest stories that are out there. So we have to change that shift. We have to make sure, she's texting her boss now saying, shit, we need to change our editorial program. No, we're in a mission now. We have to communicate better that yachting is a cool industry doing really cool stuff. Not just that it is big white boats with very expensive interiors that go to beach clubs and bikini-clad people are doing things on board. I say people, remember, are doing things on board. We have to change the market message, and very quickly, because the IPCC report, which was mentioned on the first day by Laurent, is coming to bite us very quickly, because that is the one thing the governments read and they make policy decisions on. The world is being destroyed by what's happened in the past. All right? I have 3 children. They told me to sell my cars, which I did. I now use electric bikes for the whole of my transport in London because they said so. And I listen to my children, my daughter especially. She's scary. But the point being, she's about that big. But no, she's not. She's lovely. But the point being is, we've got to think about this very carefully. We are leaving a legacy. Max said, from his legacy perspective, I need to leave behind something people remember me for. And that is, I'm building boats that make sense for the future. Not that I'm the most successful floated super yacht builder, but I'm building boats that make sense for the future. We all have that responsibility at every single level. And I feel the Smart Yacht Conference should be the catalyst and the melting pot and the meeting point for that change. And I hope they'll invite me back and I haven't offended anyone. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks, Martin. Thank you so much, Martin. That was great. One of my abiding memories of entering the yachting business, and 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I didn't really know what a yacht was, and my first introduction was with very, very little production yachts, and then I was sent to Barcelona to MB92, and I will never forget seeing Limitless at MB92 having a repaint job, and my eyes were opened as to how big some yachts could be, but not only that, as to the amount of extra work that goes on beyond yacht building, refits, repairs, the work that MB92 does. I was really fascinated to read in my notes that MB92 were actually the first to publish sustainable reports. So clearly it's a company that takes sustainability seriously, takes an interest in it, and I'm very happy now to invite the MB92 team to the platform.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I was going to do a long introduction about MB92 and the service and everything, but I think Martin and David, you've covered everything, so thank you for that. Okay, so yeah, this is a short Q&A that we'd like to do in recognition of the publication of our last and most recent report, which came out yesterday. It's called A Joint Effort for the Oceans, and it's a report talking about and investigating the effect of the supply chain, of which we are a member, of course, from suppliers all the way through refit and towards clients. Okay? Within that report, we are covering a deep study of our survey of our suppliers in an in-depth survey. Plus, we've done interviews with key decision makers, captains, and management companies. So it's a pleasure for me to be here on stage and be with. Let me just get more comfortable. On behalf of MB92 Group, we have Philippe Bernard, Procurement Director. On behalf of Water Revolution Foundation, I welcome Biene Uglari. And on behalf of C-Index, I welcome Nathalie Quevert. Okay, so can I put this down somewhere now? Okay, as part of this Q&A, I'd like to cover two principal areas, mainly talking about suppliers in the first part. And then secondly, I'd like to focus a little bit more on the challenge that we have trying to convince owners to transition to more sustainable practices. Okay. Do we have another microphone available? Hello. Okay. So let's get started. Can we move on to the next one? So the first part of this, and obviously I'm welcoming questions from anyone who has anything to offer or points of view. As part of the supplier survey that we did, we interviewed 100 companies across our sort of network, and we got some really interesting results back. One of those interesting results was that mainly around about 50% of our suppliers actually can evaluate the impact of their own activity. And 75% of them had no means to measure the impact of their own supply chain. But one of the positive things about this is that almost 60% of them were very keen to adopt new practices and interested in to know their own impact. So my first question is to you, Biene. What can organizations do to support companies within the supply chain in this area? And if there are certain areas to prioritize, what are they?
Thank you, Matt, and thank you to MB92. I read the report, the third one. Well done, really a serious work, so I'm very happy. And to be honest, I'm within this industry now for more than 10 years. And at the very beginning, it was really difficult to speak about sustainability. And I speak from the field of sustainability science. So I come immediately to the point, also refreshing the call to action by Martin, my fellow revolutionary at Water Revolution Foundation. We need to keep it simple, but we need to do this now. And we need to do this now all together. And as soon as we look into our business, into our company, we need to know that it's impossible to keep our business and our interest in the business within our walls. We need to look outside. We need to build up strategic partnership. We need to build relationships. And the very first level, it's the supply chain. So it's absolutely crucial to keep working with them. And I started in this industry as a sustainability manager. So I faced very practical problems, how to engage the supply chain. Because even if we are the most structured and good enough company in terms of sustainability, to engage someone else, it's really difficult. And probably the perception was more, and probably this is also your experience, was more about the problems you have. You do not really understand the value. You do not catch the opportunity of being different in this commercial world. So what I started to do, and now together with the foundation we are working really hard and developing programs, we deliver easy tool to be used. Because sustainability is not a word, it's a verb. And it's a science, delivering tools and content in order to make things working in a more optimized way. So what I will suggest, of course, really roughly and to sum up, have a look at our programs. For example, using the LCA approach, understanding where are the weak points, where are the strongest points. And we built up for this to be really useful to the industry also some specific index in order to evaluate how we are measuring, how we are performing in terms of sustainability without changing our work. So just using an easy tool already available to anyone that wants to join. And we built up, and I close with this, also the Sustainable Solution Database, because I understand that an industry, an industrial cluster, need to be really data and credible solution at hand. You need to have a look, you need to start using it. And we are here exactly for this, for facilitating this work within this amazing planet, super yachting.
Thank you, Vienna. Philippe, the refit yard sits in an interesting position between supply chain and client. And obviously in your role as procurement director, you speak regularly with suppliers. What can organizations such as MB92 and other big players in the industry do to support companies' transition to become more sustainable?
Yeah, so as you said, as a refit shipyard, we are, after the entry into service of the vessel, we have a central position between the supplier and the customer who comes to do the refit. As you can see today, there are so many innovations, so many opportunities right now which are brought by our supply chain. Many ideas, many new things, many proposals to improve the sustainability of the vessel. Our role as a refit shipyard is to gather all these initiatives, all this innovation, and propose it to our customer. At the same time, we are really working on the sustainability of our own operations. So, because doing a complete refit of a yacht is involving a lot of work and can have some impact for the environment. So we work on the way we do it to reduce this impact. So we talk about a solar panel, we will use HVO, we're doing the electrification of our vehicles, of our infrastructure. We are working on the wastewater treatment. We have wastewater treatment in the shipyard, and many other initiatives to improve the sustainability of our operations.
Okay. I'm interested to ask all three of you if you think that there are particular areas within the industry that are making particular progress in sustainable transition. Can we start with, Natalie, pass it down to you.
I'll have a go. Thank you. I think that on the, maybe I'm jumping ahead of the questions, and I do apologize, but what we talked about before in terms of the human aspect, I think that that's probably the area that's having maybe the most impact at the moment, because human behavior we can pass the message through that. There are some companies that are here in Monaco that are already engaged. I think we've got a lot to learn from the crew and the captains, because they're the ones that are on the ground. There's a company here in Monaco called Ethic. I think they actually have a stand at the back there. Claire Ferrandier is the person who leads this, and she's doing some amazing work because of her own experience as a chief stew on a boat. I mean, that's something that's very natural. There's also Nigel Marison, who's proposing through his company Blue ESG a roadmap so that there's achievable goals that can be measured in line with higher guidelines beyond the CPO industry, in line with the SDGs from the United Nations. So I think all these are going back to the human element. I think, from my opinion, that's maybe where we're doing the best strides.
Thank you. Vienna.
Yes, I would like to add something to this very shortly, but I think that the human factor, you're totally right, Natalie, I totally believe in this. Awareness is growing. We need to rush a bit, because I also agree with Martin that we are, as an industry, we are too slow, but as a community, we can do a lot all together. And if you ask me which are where I do see progress during these years, I do not want to mention a specific technological aspect, but more the tools we can use in order to make sustainability grow into this sector. And from this point of view, I think that I strongly believe in community. All together, we can make the difference. And that's why I'm so happy that C-Index, and in this case, Water Evolution Foundation with the Yacht Environmental Transparency Index, both dedicated to understand how to rate a yacht, how to understand the use we can do of a yacht, etc. It's something very technical. It involves lots of technical things. I'm not going to go this way, not to bore you, but in any case, we are really stronger together. And by collaborating, we could really make sustainability happen in a very exciting way, and making a fantastic journey together. So I really hope that this is really a good sign for us to step up into the sustainability journey. We are too slow, but I strongly believe that next year we will be here with a forum showcasing lots of amazing things.
Fantastic, thank you. Philippe.
For my part, I would like so today we talk a lot about the propulsion, the energy generation on a boat, and that's true that the most important things we have to, where the evolution has to come, because that's what is polluting the most. But as a refit shipyard, we don't want to wait to have a new solution for propulsion. And today we already have many different kind of work that we can do in a vessel to improve its sustainability. So we have some example here, but so it can be, for example, to have new kind of anti-fouling, to do treatment of exhaust that we have, to work on the heat, to get heat from the engine to use on the vessel. So there are many things today which are available, and the objective of MB92 is to be able, through our refit package, to propose this to our customer, but today. And after, when there will be more things to come for the energy and the propulsion, we want to be ready to do it as well.
Fantastic, thank you. Before we move on, I just wanted to ask if anyone had any questions you would like to ask the panel. We have a lot of suppliers here. If anyone had any points of view or questions they would like to share. That makes it nice and easy. Okay, can we move on to the next slide? Fantastic. Yeah, where is Malcolm? Okay, so we talked a little bit about the supply chain in terms of suppliers. I'd like to look a little bit more and talk about the issue facing sort of the transition for clients, some of the issues there. In a lot of the interviews that we did as part of the research for this report, regulation comes up a lot as a key driver for change. What we need to do is go beyond that and help owners ultimately implement solutions. But a lot of the captains and the management companies that we spoke to were saying that essentially when working out budgets, sustainable solutions are seen as a nice to have. So quite often these are the ones that get stripped off. So my question to you is, aside from regulations as a key driver for transition towards more sustainable best practice, what can the supply chain do to improve engagement in this area?
It's probably going back on a little bit what was said before, but just to bounce off that, I think some of the misconceptions that we have about sustainability, it's about, oh, it's just about saving costs. Okay, that's just going to knock off a couple of, and it's just to save. I think we have to look beyond that. Any sustainability management course will tell you it's not about, it's about seizing the opportunity, and actually with the companies that are, or the services that will be in the future about providing these roadmaps, it'll be about providing a plan that will allow the owners to see the tangible effects of them choosing a more sustainable way, or whether it be the decking, whether it be, I don't know, the automation on board or whatever, that they actually see the physical results of, okay, this is how much I'm saving. I think that will be a big key driver. And then the sustainability part of it is actually, that's the cherry. For the sustainability people, we're like, I mean, this is great, but even if it means that they don't see that in the first instance, that's what we receive as our bonus at the end. At the end of the day, they've saved Posidonia, they've not run into any cetaceans, etc. But I think we have to prove to them, you can save a lot of money, there's a lot of opportunity for you, you won't have a stranded asset, you'll be able to sell your boat down the road. I think that's really what needs to be pushed before and when and if regulation comes into place.
Yes, I would love to say something about this. And again, at the very beginning, it was very clear that having concrete tools and transparent tools to be able to showcase the cost-benefit ratio, because it's all about this. And it's all about the terms you look into. I will make myself more clear. I started a program with the computational sustainability science in order to deliver an easy tool to be used. Today is called by the foundation the Yacht assessment tool, in order to understand which are the real costs in terms of not only economic, also economic of course, and social too, because we do not need to forget the social aspect of sustainability. It's not only about environment. We have ESG now in place. It's about environment, it's about the social aspect, it's about the governance. Altogether, and to keep it short, I was able to demonstrate, we are able to demonstrate with the Yacht assessment tool, which are the costs in terms of economic, social and environmental cost-benefit ratio. When you showcase this kind of data to a yacht owner, we bridge immediately the gap between what we know and what we do, immediately, because you see the value of your choices. And if you look, talking about sustainable solution, for example, the heat recovery system, if you look very easily to this cost at the very beginning, you see that it comes to a cost. But then you see on the long term 10 years later, you have just savings. And you save lots of money by choosing more sustainable solution. This is the way we need to promote sustainability also in terms of new solutions or new way to do things. And I think you have lots of examples of this in this field, I guess.
To answer to your question, Matt, there is another subject I would like to talk about, is public perception of the yacht. So Martin talked about that before, but 10 or 20 years ago, you see a yacht, you're like, wow, that's so nice. I love it, it's so beautiful, and so on. Today, people see a yacht, they're like, wow, how much pollution for having fun and just for one person to enjoy his own vessel. So I think the best trigger today for the owner is the challenge that in the future, when someone sees a yacht, is like, that's what he's leading today, the development of the new sustainable solution. A yacht is what we used to develop the sustainability of tomorrow, new solutions, and so on. So that's really the challenge, and I think that's the best way for the owner to be convinced into the sustainability for the future.
Fantastic, thanks, Philippe. In this report, as well as previous reports that we've released, a number of issues keep coming up when we talk about transition. The first one we've touched on just briefly now in terms of data. The second one is the roadmap, having a clear, defined roadmap to actually follow. And the other one is the role of the crew and the important role that they play in this transition. We talked a little bit about data, but I'd just like to kind of follow up on it. Where do you think data can have the biggest impact for owners in this transition? Natalie.
I think, well, from our perspective, our C-index tool, as I mentioned yesterday, is on the beginning stage because it's based on the EEDI, so based on the design of the yacht. So bringing it back to refit, I think it's the data from the EEDI that we've compiled can be very, very useful, especially going into a refit period. Simply because one of the messages that we want to pass is, I mean, we have no doubt that what we've seen today and what we're seeing in the news with the developments, San Lorenzo, Lursen, etc., we have no doubt that the new yachts will be more sustainable, for sure. It's obvious that it's part of the business now. But of course, our fear, what we said with what Martin mentioned, was the existing fleet. But one of the things that we noticed when we, over the last 2 years of developing the C-index, and it's available, is that we have to be very careful not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are some yachts that are out there that are older yachts that are actually not too bad. Not everything that's old is bad, and not everything that's new is good. And I think that's a very important message going into the refit period, because if you have your C-index rating going into MB92, and you have an envelope for a refit, you can maybe concentrate your sustainability efforts on something else than the propulsion. Maybe you do want to concentrate on the generators or changing them if you have that budget. But if you don't have the budget for either, and you have your rating when you go in, you can maybe put it into something else. I don't know how technically feasible it is for, heat recuperation or whatever, but I think it's important to have that in mind. And that's something that we try to pass on as a message, especially when the owners want to sell their yachts, for example, in a Monaco Yacht Show. Be careful of what you're selling, because you might actually be selling something that's actually quite good and maybe not too impactful in terms of the CO2 emissions. You might be actually picking up something that's going to be worse. So be very, very careful. And I think that's an important message for the refit yards.
I totally agree with you, Natalie. We need really to preserve also our capital in terms of heritage, in terms of lots of things. And remember that in Monaco, we are in Monaco, and sustainability, the French term of sustainability is durability. This is all about sustainability. So that's a very important message to deliver to the refit sector. And as Martin has already said, I do see there the real business for this industry. It's it's a huge part. And speaking about what data and what the new index, including the Yacht and the C index, I remember was more or less the same as a result. We have an amazing evidence on the two main aspects that are really energy intensive. On one hand, we have propulsion, and that's true, absolutely. And of course, we need to work on this. On the other hand, there is the human behavior. The behavioral aspect is fundamental. The hotel load is exactly the energy needed as to move the yacht. So we really need to focus on this. And the crew, captain, crew, people on board make the real difference from this point of view. So the data helps us to understand where to put our effort and how to prioritize this effort. And to close also this part with a very positive message, we have lots of things to do, but this is real the field where we can translate our challenge, sustainability challenge, into an opportunity. Also changing the mindset and the image of the industry to the public opinion. And totally with you, Philippe.
And for refit shipyards, how can we utilize data in this regard to it?
The utilization of the data would be to have an assessment of the sustainability of the yacht when the yacht arrives in our shipyard. And it will be, with these numbers, the opportunity to identify the most valuable kind of measure or refit we can do to improve the sustainability of the boat. This will give us a concrete way to make proposal to our customer.
I mean, we've had captains come up to us and suggest maybe that we share data with other boats in the yard on waste usage, on energy, how much they're consuming, and so on and so forth. Do you think this is something we're going to see more often in shipyards?
Yeah, I'm convinced that the assessment, the measurement of this will be very soon something we will have everywhere.
Okay, fantastic. We talked a little bit about crew and the role that they play. Okay, they spend more time on board than the owners, and their habits have an influence on transition. Have you seen any crew initiatives that have become commonplace or taken up on board? Have you seen any examples of how their influence has played a part?
I think maybe we should pass that on to somebody who has been on board, who isn't a crew member, because I don't think any of us will have it.
Do we have any examples in the room if we can share?
Yeah, there might be other people, but if there, maybe you can give us your opinion, because you're the expert on this. It's about crew experience and how...
Examples of crew initiatives or habits that they've helped support a transition more widely on board.
Hi everyone, my name is Claire, so I'm the founder of ATYC, the first environmental training for yacht crew, and I was chief stew on board during 8 years. Actually, I created the training because I was chief stew on board and I saw the way we was working, and that didn't change, and the pollution we was creating on board, and also the waste. So what I can say now after train super yachts between 30 and 73 meters, that the crew are trying to do their best most of the time in the crew area, because first of all they have more action on this area. They can decide it for their own area to reduce plastic or to stop using this kind of products. But for the guest area, it's quite difficult. For example, I heard Martin said we should ban plastic bottle on board because we have a water filter bottle, water filter tap. Yes, but the owner still wants his special bottle, 1.5 liters on next to his bed, the Evian brands, and the Fiji on the tender. So this is why after the training, that most of the time the owners know about the training, that we came on board, we trained the crew, and we create an environmental policy to communicate the action of the crew. The owner is taking a different position. And what we saw, especially on the boat I used to work for during 7 years, is the next season, the owner's guest decided one day at Capri at the anchor to take off the tender and to take the fish nets to clean the plastic. The guests did that because they were so proud that the crew was taking action on board to reduce the impact that they wanted to take part of it too. So I think it's doing awareness on board. It's spreading the power to the guests. They can also empower the crew and empower the guests through the awareness. It's not easy, but the crew are trying to do their best, and sometimes, most of the times, they can't. Or there is not enough space on the boat to do what they want, or they couldn't find the best solution for what they are looking for. So this is why I think we all need to find the best solution, to communicate the best solution, and to help the crew, because they are dealing without time. They have no time. We sleep like 4 hours a day. We work 70 hours a day. I used to work 24 hours a day during lots of days during the summer. We have no time, and I feel like the crew are feeling guilty about their job, and they want to be proud. So we need to give them the opportunity to get proud of their job, and also to give them the solution, because they have no time.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, just to finish up, because I know we're running short of time. Our research is suggesting that there is a sense of a lack of clarity on a roadmap forward for solutions and a way forward. Even to a certain extent, I've heard people talking about greenwashing and everything is a sustainable solution now, and so there is a lack of clarity there. From each of your perspectives, how do we cut through this fog? How do we, get these solutions implemented on board? Do you have it?
No. No. Sorry. Can you hear me? Yes. For me, the answer to this question is really easy. It's just a word. Science has enough content, enough tools to deliver to any industry. What I would like to highlight is that today, more than ever, we need to be sector-specific. So we need science really feeding tools specifically for this industry, and to match the value Natalie just mentioned, transparency and credibility. That's so much needed.
Oops, if you want. Thank you. Yes, sure. I think what Vienna and I have discussed in the last 2 days that we've been together here is that collaboration, of course, is key. We can be different, and I think that our strength as an industry is that we are different, and that we bring different values to the table, and that's fine. And I think that if we have our different views, we can prove to the outside world that we're not greenwashing, because we have different views, and we're bringing these different values to the table, and taking them to a higher level of, when I mean accountability, I'm talking about third party, I'm talking about organizations that are linked to the UN, that's what I'm talking about. But I think that our strength as an industry lies in the fact that we are ecosystems. I know that Nigel shares similar views to me about that, in terms of it's not one overall organization that's going to tell everybody else what to do. It doesn't work. That is doomed to failure. That will just create more suspicion and more greenwashing perception on the other side, or from the outside world. I think our strength really, really lies in the fact that we are different, and as an industry we're bringing our own solutions, and there will be many solutions for one topic, and that's fine. Again, bouncing on what Vienna is saying, the science is absolutely crucial, but it doesn't mean to say that there's only one solution to one topic.
So much true, Natalie. I just want to mention the SDG 17, yes, the last one, but not the less important. It's about strategic partnership to build together the Agenda 2030. So we need to get there in a serious way.
Okay, yeah, just to conclude also, yeah, as we said, assessment is also a real way, transparent assessment to avoid greenwashing and go through real solution, having a real impact for sustainability.
Fantastic, that's great. Julie, can you move forward? Okay, thank you ever so much for your time. I know we're really short, and I know, Vienna, you have a train to catch, so we'll finish it up there. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask or any comments? Yes, Malcolm.
Good afternoon. Just a point on data and the threat of greenwashing that the industry is so exposed to. The organizations who are doing the research, who've done the most recent research on shipping emissions, which include yachting, was the IMO in their 2020 report. But we as an industry ourselves do not collect the data in which to benchmark and then to measure our progress of improvement. So if I look back on the data from the IMO and with the business as usual model that we have in place at the moment, our trajectory is that we will double our emissions by the end of the decade from the yachting industry. So how do we prove that we are improving? And the only way we can do that is by collaboratively collecting the data from the fuel used and the electricity used from shore power so that we have a benchmark which we can use then to prove that the industry is actually on the right trajectory to at least meeting the IMO's targets for 2030 and perhaps surpassing them with some of the initiatives we're putting in place. So it's really a call to the wider industry that data, as pointed out, is great for individual yachts, but we also need to do data collection collectively across the whole industry so that we can benchmark the yachting industry and hopefully its improvements in the future. So that's it.
Thank you, Malcolm. Well, I'd just like to thank all our panelists and thank you for your time. We have left the QR code to download the report. It's available on our website, and a few hard copies are kicking around. Okay, can you hear me? Oh, that one's working better. Sorry, I don't know if you heard me. Yeah, just to finish, I wanted to thank everyone for taking part. Thank you for listening. And we've left the QR code. There are QR codes, kicking around to download the report. It's available on our website. And for those of you who are going to be joining our session now to talk about a little bit more refit for the future and some of the solutions that and services are being proposed by MB92, I invite you to join us in the Aquaram room in a few minutes. Thank you.
So we're fast approaching the awards ceremony. So we'll just have a quick photo shoot before I explode into action. So we're fast approaching the awards ceremony. I'd remind you this is the first edition of this event. So whoever wins the awards will be the first ever to win this particular award. But before we have the award ceremony, we're going to split into two workshops. So I'd invite those for the MB92 workshop to convene behind me in the Aquarama Lounge. Those for the Monaco Marina Management workshop, that's going to be organised in the Sunrise Bar. The Sunrise Bar, if you don't know, is through the back there, through the corridor and on the right. So it's MB92 behind me in the Aquarama, Monaco Marina Management in Sunrise Bar in front of me, and on the right. And we will reconvene at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hello? Hello? No. Doesn't work. None of them work. Let me try. Oh, okay. 2 minutes. Wait, 1 minute.
I was quite busy this week. Can connect with me, so maybe I can accept. Sorry for.
Hello, hello. Hi everyone, I invite you to come and sit down and join us. Move closer to the front, then we sit here at the back. Okay, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us for this Refit for the Future workshop. Sorry? Is there people coming? Ah, okay, sorry. Yeah, I heard some noises at the back and it threw me a little bit.
Technology.
Yeah,
Technology.
exactly. Okay, so we're well aware of the situation. There are 6,000 super yachts of over 30 meters in length currently navigating the oceans. And at some point, as we've been hearing and talking about over this last couple of days, they are going to need to be upgraded. They're going to need to be refitted. That's something that we're all very well aware of. So what we'd like to do today is introduce to you the service that we have developed over the last year or so. And I'm together with Chema, our Commercial Director for the MB92 Group, and Adrian representing Lateral, who will come and give us some support regarding some of the issues in the service. So before we go into the actual service details, just a little bit of background. I won't bore you with all the details regarding sustainability and what we're doing, but I think it's important to add credibility to what we're trying to offer. Okay? So in terms of our own activity, in terms of reviewing our own operations, in terms of what we're doing, we launched a sustainability plan in 2021, 5-year plan. It involved broad areas of improvements, not only to our facilities, but to procedures. And we're very lucky to have Mark Ervas, who observed and oversaw the implementation of that plan across the group. And so if you have any particular questions regarding what we're doing operationally, share them with him. So I just want to give you a little bit of background in terms of how this project developed. As I mentioned, we know the situation. We know there's no silver bullet to the situation regarding sustainability in super yachting, but that's not an excuse not to do anything. Doing something is the start, and even if it is baby steps, we want to see progress. So when we talked about this probably a year or so ago when we started this project, we wanted to, as one of our main goals is to make this as easy as possible for owners. Everything that we're trying to do here is not to be putting up a barrier. We want to make barriers come away so that the facilitation of these solutions are easily implemented and ultimately provide benefits. Sustainability is a very nice word, but ultimately we were talking about a luxury industry, we're talking about pleasure, and so all of these solutions have to provide additional benefits, whether that's in terms of cost, whether in terms of performance, or whether that's in terms of comfort. So I'll leave you in the hands of Chairman to explain to you a little bit about the service itself, and then we'll get into the workshop shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, and thanks everyone that is joining today. I will start just with why we came up with this option. As Matt just mentioned, we are really keen to work for a better future, but it was quite frustrating to see that you can implement a lot of things, but there was no way to reach the market. So the question was how we can start doing things. No? All the focus is in the new build shipyards, lots of fancy things happening over there, and we're having 200 projects per year, and we're not doing almost nothing, okay? Between brackets, okay? Refit, in a sense, is already something that works towards sustainability. We're extending life of assets, and yeah, the normal activity is to improve systems, isolated systems, okay? But the bad thing on all of that is that there's not awareness or the sense that you are improving an asset, no? So we're thinking how we can do that. The difficulties and challenges are plenty. So we have an atomized proposal in terms of supply chain, so different technologies everywhere, some proven, some not proven. And on the other hand, we are facing not a common approach. So at the end, our clients, even more in a refit shipyard, you have from 30 meters to 180 meters, sailing yacht, so there's not a single solution for everyone. And most importantly, you have boats from 30 years, you have boats just delivered, so you don't know where to start, okay? So we came up with something that maybe it's some sort of abstract, but again, we need to do something. So that's why we wanted to present this, and we move away from social media and a campaign itself only. This will happen. But we wanted to have the opportunity to discuss with the industry our approach and see if you like the approach. So you are more than welcome to challenge everything. Okay? So it's a workshop. So please cooperate. So, okay. In addition to that, so trying to get into the sustainability path or roadmap for every single owner, there's also differences. So there are some clients that are early adopters, they are fine with that. There are others that probably don't have or don't want to allocate the budget. So that's why we're proposing these 3 options, okay? And basically it's the MB92 group approach will be proactively seek and to facilitate the path for sustainability, okay? It's quite self-explanatory, but at the end it's good, better, best approach, okay? So 3 options being the first one, immediate improvement plan. What is that? A client comes, throw a work list on the table, we start discussing it, but proactively we are going to propose them simple options, upgrades, technologies that are isolated, meaning LED lighting or any kind of other system that can be implemented, okay? And yeah, you can read it there. From that, we can move to the next one, okay, which is the full conversion plan, okay? And here, the approach would be really customized, analyze the boat. I will not go into the details. We'll come back to that later. But the deliverable from the MB92 side will be a proper analysis. We will detail it in a minute. But we'll deliver a refit proposal. Okay, that means a schedule, cost summary, and also we'll take into account the particularities of the client. A client would like potentially to do it in a row, so 2 years refit, or another one just said, okay, I need 4 months maximum immobilization period, so we will plan a 5-year refit plan, okay, everything with schedules, waiting times, and pricing, okay. To get into details of the analysis, we have Adrian from Lateral Architects, which will explain a little bit or in depth what the analysis will be. So welcome.
Afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Gemma. Thanks, Matt, for having me. So yeah, I'm from Lateral Naval Architects. We are an engineering company based in the south of the UK. We are supporting clients, designer, shipyards for new build and refit. So when we talk about future-proof yachts, I think like many others, we've got a clear strategy about how we're going to deal with new build. We've got what we call the energy transition platform. But what do we do with the existing fleet? And that is a little bit more tricky to deal with. I think for us, can you hear me? Yeah. I think for us, what is really important is we need to focus on what matters the most for the client. And as Gemma said, you know, each client would have a specific requirement for his yacht. Someone's talked about the C index. It could be the Yeti. It could be anything else on board. So our plan and approach is really tailored to take into account any kind of requirement, really. So just to take a very simple example, you can have a client coming to us and say, well, I want to reduce the energy consumption on board. Okay, so you can look at the vessel. You'll probably find out that, like any other yachts, it will probably only spend 5-10% of this time sailing. You look at, therefore, the hotel load. You understand that clearly the hotel load is all about HVAC, or most 60% of it. So what can you do in that sense for a net? You can try to have a better installation on board. Or more broadly, you can try to have a smarter approach to the shading on board. So there's plenty of things you can do to actually improve your HVAC on board on even existing fleets. But sometimes it's just require a slightly different approach than just reducing the HVAC or things like that. There's things you can do. You can play with the shade, and we've seen many reports where shade is a massive. It can make massive improvements to your HVAC. So when it comes down to the full conversion plan, we've tried to split the phase in two. We've got the pre-feasibility phase, and that is really when we're going to start the discussion with the client. What we want to understand is why they want to upgrade the vessel, maybe set some expectation as well at the beginning. But from there, we need to receive, statutory documents, obviously, drawings. But most importantly, we need to understand how the boat has been operated. We've seen many boats which has been designed in a certain way, but actually just don't operate that way. And that's still the case on a daily basis. So we really need to understand how we want to operate the vessel to help and to suit the best. And from there, what we're going to do is when we receive all that detail from the client or the owner's rep, we go back to our drawing boards and we're going to try to aim to undertake like technical comparative study, try to see what is the potential of the upgrade. So there's many elements we can think of. There is obviously the energy architecture. We can think about machinery selections, but it's not just that. We can think about weight-saving options to either balance the boat, the center of gravity in different manner. We can think about improving the seakeeping of the vessel. So it's about energy, but not just that. It could be about comfort as well. So this is all good, but how do we, what kind of metrics we're using to actually define and walk through this analysis? And I think to me there's few elements. As a matrix, we can talk about fuel consumptions for either the hotel or the propulsion. We can think about CO2 emissions, so the clients know straight away from our work what is the gain of different options. You can think about the improvement on reliability. Try to make the system a bit more redundant for people who are struggling with this. We can try to improve the noise and vibration and the comfort on board. So there's many elements we can think of in the study, but I think the idea here is, at the end, the clients got from us and MB92's got a technical report which is summarized the finding on the actual vessel and the benefit of upgrading and multiple recommendation. So he's got multiple options, a lot of comparison to make his mind and his choice. And I think that will help a lot, actual owner to make his mind, because, that's what we're here about.
Yeah. Thanks, Adrian. I think that one important concept is that this has to happen sometime. So at a certain stage, you need to evaluate your yacht. So that's why we truly think that starting sooner rather than later will be a huge difference. At the end, there will be a restriction in capacity. So all of a sudden, if regulation comes in place, there will not be enough capacity on the shipyards. And a shipyard, you need some time and some money to invest in building up. So there will be a bottleneck on that. Okay, so I think it's very important to start going in that direction. And at the end, in terms of investment, I will not give you numbers now, but this sort of a study is something that is quite affordable for everyone. So that's why we invite captains, management companies, and everyone just to, if you truly believe that this has to happen, let's start doing things now. Okay? On another topic, one thing that we've discovered with the voice of the customers and interviews that we've done is that some of the sense that the owners has is that, oh yeah, it's fine, sustainability, yeah, but I'll buy a new one, which is absolutely fine. But again, first of all, how long it will take for the new build shipyards to clean the order book? So that's a long waiting time. And secondly, what happens with the existing fleet? Will just disappear? So there are some questions to the audience to see your feedback.
So, any initial thoughts? I mean, yes.
In order to avoid Hi. I have a question about this. I buy a new one and then I don't care about the fleet, I just want my boat, which is a kind of behavior you could face. Would you be able to buy a second-hand boat, refit it and resell it? Because then they would buy the new boat. They would have the feeling of the user experience of buying it on their own boat with your expertise already inside.
Good question, but we want to focus on the current setup. So we never thought, there's always been discussion, but we will never go into the new build shipyard policy, and I think that's also quite similar to proposing. So no, definitely we are not going to buy second-hand boats just to refit them. Basically, we are humble, so we don't have this level of contact. We are not brokers, and I think that if you want to convert a yacht, you better know what the outcome will be to make it easy to sell, let's say. So not an option for us yet. Thanks.
I'd like to just have a quick audience check and see how many people we have here, part of the key decision-making process on the client side, captains, management companies, reps, owners. How many do we have in the room? Okay. So I'd like to ask kind of, what are the conversations being had regarding sustainability with the client? Do you have a plan in place? What are those conversations like? Who would like to?
Thank you. Piers Flood from Dolly Yachts. So this is a question we've been asking recently. We've recently launched as a company a service we're terming EEY, Environmentally Efficient Yachting, and we're trying to gain traction with our clients. I don't want to be over dramatic, but there's no reason commercially why you should own a yacht. And at the moment, there's very little that the majority of owners are doing to reduce the yacht's impact on the environment. And because it's a leisure toy, and they do it because they want to, they could also buy an estate or another jet plane. They don't have to be in yachting. And we have a real concern with clients that eventually society will make it impossible to own a yacht without really seriously addressing the impact on the environment. So far, our conversations with clients haven't been very successful because at the moment they are not the focus of the green lobby, but they will be. And we're trying to get ahead of the curve and say, look, you might not personally care, but in 5-10 years' time, your children might care, the public, your shareholders might care. So you need to try and do something now before in 10 years' time you've got people beating down your door. But it's a very hard conversation to have with clients at this moment.
Many thanks. I think that we all share this feedback or what we are hearing, but it's our responsibility to facilitate things. So from the refit tiny part, we try to facilitate the process. It's, I think, giving opportunities of starting a path slowly and seeing some benefits, and also facilitate early adopters, or just the fact of that the full conversion plan, you can split it and just go for the pre-feasibility study and have something tangible to explain to the clients will make it happen. But the sense of urgency, I think, is shared between all of us, so we better act. But we cannot, from the shipyard perspective, we can start discussing with captain, owner rep, but one of the big challenges is the time to market in the refit. So normally you don't have 2 months to plan the refit. So either when you receive the work list, although that we can start conversations on, hey, let's go for that, you have a delivery time of equipment. So you're missing part of the options. So that's why we need to engage with the entire community to start having the conversations. And at the end, the work list will come. But if we have a good relationship with you guys, for example, we can start conversations with the fleet, select 3 boats, and start proactively going on the direction and get some progress, which at the end is proactiveness, which we need to deliver.
Hello everyone, Xavier of Hill Robinson. So we are yacht management for 20 years. Our core service is the yacht management, the construction and the refit. And what is interesting, because we follow those panels now for many years, and it seems that we collectively missing a part of the equation, which is the operation of the yacht. We see the builders that wonder how the yacht is used, and actually us, the yacht management, we manage for the last 10 years between 60 to 65 yachts under agreement, not only management, but all kind of services. So we do see how the yachts are operated. So we do have also those discussions with clients that are sometimes most often concerned about the costs. So the expenditure end of year is always the good time to raise those questions, because they see the electricity, they see the utility bills, they see the fuel consumption, and so they wonder how they can change things. And also during the project, during the work list preparation, it's not obvious to the crew or to the owner to think about some of the upgrades or retrofit to cut or reduce the emissions. That's the role of the project management or the operators to make proposal. So we've done it, and Martin mentioned earlier 3,000 yacht owner for 4,500 yachts. Well, we did convert, let's say, maybe few owners already to sustainable, more sustainable operation yacht. 10% of the yacht, so basically the yachts, like you say, they cruise 10% of the time. So for us, when we talk about the new build with a client and they ask about the hybrid propulsion, which for us is not an abuse function, depending on the operation of the yacht. So the remaining time, which is 90% of the time, the yacht float for 50% of the year waiting for guests at the anchor. That's the point for a 70-meter yacht. They maybe spend a month on the port, maybe 2 months between the shipyard period and the operation, and then they spend few months at the anchor waiting for guests. So the first things that we explain to the owner is give visibility to the crew. Because if you can tell to the crew that you're not coming for the next 2 weeks, they switch off the jacuzzi, they put your cabin at 22 degrees, and then you make a significant saving. That's the first point. And then for us, the solution, the immediate solution, how to help on this matter is to reduce the consumption on the hospitality, on the of course the sanitary water, and we did few retrofit of water heat recovery system. The return on investment is around 8 months. That was probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, but now with the price of electricity, within 8 months, the owner get a more sustainable yacht for free. So the return on investment is massive today. And we're talking about heat exchanger on the generator coolant circuit, not on the exhaust that is complicated with chemicals, etc. I wouldn't modify the exhaust, and I think you would not put your hand on the exhaust system. But just by adding a buffer tank and few heat exchanger, there's nothing magic here, but you actually heat the sanitary water that will be used by the 20 crew all year, and then you save 400 to 600, 800,000 a year. So this for us is some stuff that we recommend now for 5 years. When we do or plan major refit, we do promote those kind of things. And not all the owners are interested. Even if you demonstrate the cost of it and the return on investment, somehow some of them are not interested. So it's a fact. That's the leisure. We deal with individuals and emotions and many things. But some of them are interested on it, especially if it's for free. So that's something that we encourage more and more, and something that we would like to discuss further, because we've got now solution providers on the HVAC system that got their solution ready to go. We installed it a few times. That's a significant saving, and there is something maybe to do together to promote a solution, combination of service, a turnkey solution for owners. We're talking also with bank that can help the financing of it, so it's almost for free for the client. This is the contribution. So the operation side should talk more, because it seems that the builders are turning in circle, and they're missing the part. The life cycle of a yacht is 20 years. The builders cover 3 years. You cover maybe a year or two in combination of refits, or 2 years, 3 years. So where are the 15 years? Well, we do observe the yachts for 15 years. We know how they are operated. So that's the contribution we should, as a yacht management company, should do and should be doing more and more, and share our things. Before the Yeti, before the C index, it's quite obvious. We've got the data. So.
Many thanks for your contribution and for the attitude. I think that's exactly what we are looking after. I have some comments on your speech. So the first one is about the propulsion that you mentioned. No? We need to think about why there are some things that are really shiny, and I think we need to give them this story. No? So propulsion is something that they can comment with her friend. No? I have an hybrid. That's cool. But okay, why not just try to drive it and give him a report, no? And saying, okay, tell your friends that you're going to reduce the emissions of the boat by 50%. So it's even more clever. And I'm not going to rip apart the entire boat. I'm focusing in consumers, for example, no? But we need to facilitate also the storytelling behind. I was referring to the atomized supply chain because there are plenty of solutions, and that's some sort of the iceberg effect on all these projects. So we are now presenting the way we are going to the market, but in-house we are having, well, Philippe, that it was here before. Well, at the procurement level, we're working a lot. Just for this report, we made more than 100 interviews to our colleagues. So, but again, it's open innovation concept. So we are more than happy to receive feedback from management companies or from crew, from whoever. We're used to integrate things. So the magic of the refit is that you're facing in 2 months from the receipt of the work list, you need to find the solutions, arrange it, buy it, and make it happen. So we're used to that stress. So for us, it's perfect. So if you have a new technology, a service, or whatever, and I'm happy to see faces here that we've been, like Alessandro, no? Just with the GRP options, we embrace all these change and challenges. So feel free to come up with solutions because we are really happy to implement them.
Yeah. Hi, Shema. Taking on from Xavier's point, this 3-phase plan, let's call it, have you developed a cost-benefit analysis for the client? Because I think that's, as Xavier said, that's the key point of this whole process. If you can prove the value proposition and the savings over a life cycle process, it becomes a different conversation. So have you done cost-benefit analysis? Sorry, that's the question.
We are getting there.
Okay.
So it's not easy. Cost analysis.
But even ballpark figures that actually show what could be saved becomes part of the conversation.
So we're not getting into detail, but because we want this to be more a presentation from direct to the client. Okay, but basically on the immediate improvement plan, we have lots of solutions, different drivers. So we are going from the impact on savings, return of investment, and blah, blah, blah. And at the end, we're working just to give a bracket, a budget for each of the options. But of course, we cannot develop a 300 pages document because if you have a 30-meter boat, the range of the installation water treatment plant would be X, and if you go for a 100-meter, would be different. But yeah, we're giving some sort of indication on that so they can at least face it. Return of investment depends a lot. That's a tricky one.
As Xavier says, it's like the owner's now asking for the budget to be cut all the time or controlled or...
Correct.
It's a totally different mindset.
Absolutely. If I would have that tool, but resources are limited and time is limited. So for us, having this conversation well in advance, not when receiving the work list, is a must. And I think that... No, I'm not asking for that, but probably 6 months would be enough because we can put a team just focusing on that. And doesn't mean that we need to go for the third option, just on the first one. But if we have time to do few calculations, to set up the proposals and so on, we can come up not only with a refit quotation, with a schedule, but also with some calculations on the savings. So, Xavier, please.
One very strong argument is of course the return on investment is one thing because we calculate and let's say within 2 years we understand that now we face this challenge which will impact the value of the assets. And so clearly now is another argument in our speech with the client is to say, okay, you're going to save this amount of money, but you will also have a greener yacht in competition with yachts that actually haven't done any retrofit or upgrades. Does it worth it? And then because you have to find the right trigger, for every individual. So you've got one trigger per client, basically. So that's the point. Some are not focused about the green. Some they concerned about it. They want you to clean the ocean before they take a swim in the morning. So how you do that? You cut the emission, etc. So, but the value of the asset now is a big thing because they understand that.
So important to do at the moment. We also need to look into the future at what the risks are to the value of that asset in the coming years. And those risks are related to climate change. So, for example, new regulations that might impact a vessel's operation. It might be local restrictions that impact how a vessel can operate. It may be a carbon tax that gets imposed on to a yacht. It may be the lenders and their requirements to get the higher polluting assets off their loan books, which then increase the cost of borrowing. And all of those risks need to be considered within the total cost of ownership model because they will impact the future value of those vessels. So these incremental changes that you can make now, which have if you like, a capital cost and perhaps a not very clear return on investment, may pay for themselves in the future because of that higher resale value that the vessel will garner because of it.
Yeah, no, I think it's quite clear now. The asset, and we've been talking about it all day. But by the look of it, it doesn't come from client yet. So it is difficult. We're probably in a transition phase where things will get. The landscape's going to change in any case. There is energy index coming on. So the value will be on the top of priority for most of the yacht owner, I suppose, at some point. So, as everyone else, we just, I think, try to get ahead of the curve before anything too dramatic happens to the yacht. But I think I follow up on Xavier's point of view. I mean, our aim is really try to connect the designers or the naval architect with the operation of the vessel, because these two worlds has been disconnected for a long time, and it's quite important to connect them back together.
Question over here. Sorry. Thank you. I have a question about this cost of ownership, return on investment concept. Do you see a trend in the life cycle when the entry point when the owner comes to you for a refit? Is it just before they want to sell it, or after 5 years of ownership? Because this has a true impact on the cost of ownership, return on investment, and this could link the different market segments around the yacht. Do you have a kind of overview on that kind of behavior?
Well, I would say that my experience is that not a single trend, but I've seen everything. So yeah, I've seen, normally the big refit comes after the sale is done. So the new owner picks it up and then change interiors and blah, 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 but more cosmetic things, not really technical stuff normally. But we've seen also many projects that are, before selling it, I will do the complete survey, I will sandblast the hull, I will paint the boat, and then I resell it with a high value. So I don't see really a trend on that. Also the ownership, well, brokers can clarify that it's not me, but I've seen also everything in this world. Boats that has been sold the first year of delivery, and boats that are owned for 25 years. So I don't see really the trend, but at the end, for me, the important thing is that we react quickly on that. Okay, so, and reacting quickly means that we go beyond or quicker than regulation, because it's a leisure industry. So if we go only waiting for the obligations, then probably we have some sort of leakage of ownership. Meanwhile, if we prepare in advance between all of us, engage for these sort of activities, we'll make things easier. We'll have more time to react at the end.
One of our challenges is that the commercial shipping, the ship owner take action for themselves, basically, while actually us, the owner, is not there. We, as management, represent the client, but is not the main driven. We have to communicate to a client that is focused on something else, while actually the commercial shipping is driven by cost, is driven by efficiency, is driven by the rules, the international rules. So the ship owner, they've got their improvement plan. And this is why we are late. It's because it never came from the client, very rarely. So we do represent the client,
And so we have to take action for them and report to them now the emergency of it and what are the solutions, which is a different mindset than the commercial shipping that, yes, they are structured, they collaborate, they probably raise studies, they think about solutions, the IMO is behind. And for us, we've been left aside for a while now, quiet, and now it's time to turn. So that's our commitment on behalf of the client to make this happen.
For me, the comparison with the commercial shipping, in sense of technology, there's a lot that it's direct implementation. But I'm normally get used to answer, do you really need 6 months or 5 months to paint a 90-meter boat if the cruise lines are doing an extension of 10 meters in a month? And I said, yeah, but probably they've been planning for that with 2 years in advance. So they're not really things that are similar. And at the end, they can plan because the operations are quite clear in general in the commercial industry. So they can plan everything in advance, they can optimize. And that's why technology, it's easier to improve in that segment of the market. Because for us, it's more, okay, what I do improve. No, because the operational side is always like, well, it's better not to design a Formula One. No, you go for a normal car, and if you want to go to the car, the Formula One is not the best car. So I think that it all impacts.
Hi, if I can jump in. No, but I'm very happy to hear that you are now being the one responsible of going to the client and being proactively. So that's our first, I would say, most proactive project we have been developing now from the refit services. So we just need to work together now and go and say, hey, regulation is coming, challenges are coming, climate change is coming. Right.
We never wait.
Try to cover. And one comment also regarding the second-hand market isn't the best after no yacht. That's the most sustainable solution, we know that. The second best solution isn't to actually the second-hand market. We recycle a yacht. The owner that invests, and we all amazed sometimes, they buy, because the broker is good, they buy crappy stuff that needs, intensive repair, refit. That's quite amazing. That's proper recycling, So this, if we actually put this forward and we explain that and we reassure clients that they're doing something amazing to save a yacht that should be,
I think that the management companies will become, in the not too distant future, even more focused on this. And the reason being is that we have the EU ETS, the carbon tax on shipping, that's in place, which affects commercial vessels of 5,000 gross tons and above. But there's already pressure in place to reduce it to 400 gross ton and include a wider range of vessels within the carbon tax. And the interesting thing is the person who pays the carbon tax is the vessel operator. It's the person who's on the safety management certificate. So the management companies in the future will have this liability to pay the carbon tax, which they will obviously also communicate to the owners and say, look, we need to reduce this because it's a heavy penalty.
Thanks, Malcolm. Well, we are ready to support, so that's good that we are all pushing in the same direction.
I think one of the things that's interesting here is the kind of flow of communication. Obviously, our traditional model is client comes with a work list or a wish list. We define it, we source, put together a proposal, we put it, it's either approved and the work goes ahead or not. What's interesting here is this kind of flow of communication needs to kind of change, and we need to be pushing back up that chain. One of the solutions that we haven't touched on so far is the third option, well, second option, third in order, is the kind of the medium-term optimization plan. And this is well, let me go back. The medium-term optimization plan is all the solutions that don't fall into like a quick, standard refit period. And ballast water treatment plan is one of those. And that's obviously a decision that is easy to take to an owner because it's regulation enforced, and we're seeing ballast water treatment plants being planned in upcoming refits. So my question to you is have there been any upgrades on yachts or with clients that you work with that haven't been driven by regulation, and how did that conversational flow of work go?
If we take the ballast water, for instance, the convention.
This was quite obvious. If they want to keep cruising, they had to comply. Then for us, our role was to negotiate some time to find the most appropriate solution. And we were actually in competition together because, for instance, we never really been for the technical water transition or these kind of things, because we saw that it was a very temporary solution, and class were thinking, you know, that that's not the right way to do, converting the ballast into technical water and this kind of thing. So we had to take the problem from the right way, you know, comparing the system, and so they had no choice. So then come the right time to do things, so you combine it with the renewal survey or you combine it with a major refit, you know, that's fine. And so this was okay. And I think now the fleet is converted worldwide. It took maybe 5 years. So we can see that when things are imposed by the regulation, there is less discussion, which is a difficult thing to explain to the clients, because this obligation seems to come more from the private sector, the finance, the bank, and the insurance. And this, the owners do not really, they're not happy to hear that a private party or body impose them something. We understand if they want a loan, they have to comply with the lender. But everyone was expecting this revolution to come from the IMO side or from the flags indirectly, but surprisingly it come from the private. And it was interesting, the super yacht investors a few days ago in London, because you see the bank and the insurance talking the same voice. They are under the pressure of this ESG, and for them the financing and the insurance on the yachting, they're not there for the product, for the revenue. They're there for, you know, the prospect. They get access to ultra high net worth clients, or for the symbolic. But if they have to drop the yachting, they will. If the yachting do not comply and do not provide a sustainable record, they will stop financing yachts. I think this is why the builders are now quite concerned about it and take the problem seriously. So this was not really expected, you know. And this is the difficult part to explain to the client, because they don't like to be imposed things. When it comes from God, the IMO is fine and they comply. When it comes from, you know, the private banks, they've got their own problems, they've got their own insurance, they are almost sometimes banks, they're almost sometimes insurers. So they do not like this conflict, let's say.
For me, the point is that we can put a bubble, okay, and as a consultative approach in each angle, we need to make the life easier for our clients. So regardless if it's regulation, or if it's private sector driving the change or whatever, in any case, we need to promote the change to make it less painful for them. So yeah, it's true, but if we are seeing that, so let's keep pushing. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add on that, because we face quite a lot of new build owner just stepping to us just to have a new boat, and they've got specific requirements regarding their energy consumptions and stuff. And I think those clients were pioneer before, and they were willing to go through the process of, they like actually the study going through comparative, being brought into the story, but there is many clients out there who doesn't want to be involved in there. So I think what we're presenting today is a simple solution, which you see the benefits straight away on paper. So it's come here, sign at the bottom, and the job done really. So different approach, definitely.
Yes, so my name is Claire, and I would like to highlight what Malcolm said, and in connection with regulation, IMO, or what companies are taking in action. For example, in Monaco, so they want to reduce the carbon footprint of Monaco by 50% in 2035. Yeah, 35. So what they decided to is create green funds where they help company based in Monaco with subsidies to help them to reduce the impact in general. So, for example, for your company, you want to change the whole car of the company to switch in electric. You have the subsidies from the government between 30% and 70% of the cost. So what is interesting with the yachting management is if you have a fleet to manage, the carbon footprint of your fleet is the carbon footprint of your company. So what I work with the government of Monaco is through our training, for example, so the ETYC training for the crew, we help to reduce the impact of the boat, so also the carbon footprint through the reduction of garbage, waste, or just the operational of the boat. So all management company based in Monaco can have the subsidies between 30% and 70% from the government for all the fleets, even if the boat is not based in Monaco, and even if the flag of the boat is not Monaco. So we are going to train yachts all over the world because the management company are based in Monaco. And I think what is really nice and positive with Monaco is because it's that small that they can take this kind of action, and they have also lots of money to do it, and they want to promote green yachting. But I think even waiting for regulation from IMO or whatever, government can really do a lot. Management can do a lot. We just need to find a based solution to do that. And actually, owners didn't know how to pay our training before, and now they are really exciting about the training. They say, "Oh, amazing! We are going to have subsidies." So we are going to do a 80 meters yacht next month, and subsidies from government are going to take more than 50% of our cost. That is huge, and we are going to help them to reduce the footprint impact. So this is a kind of thing that we can see give us lots of hope, because we are talking a lot about the money, the reduction, and all of this kind of thing, because the clients are talking this kind of language. But there is a huge urgency that we have to change, because soon they will not able to use the yachts. They are going to anchor, and they couldn't swim because they will be full of jellyfish because the water is too warm. So they have to take that in consideration. It's not all about money. Of course it is a bit, but if they just realize from our conversation, there is an urgency for them and for their children.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Daniel. That's one topic I also want to mention in the greenwashing of the vessel is the crew. The crew is sometimes forgotten. They are working on the vessel. They are even more on the vessel than probably the owner himself. They are exposed to exhaust gases, to vibration, noise at night. They have to sleep in noisy cabins. those things, and even if you are considering that the lack of crew, hospitality people, qualified hospitality people, is getting more and more important, I think this is also some point we don't need to forget the crew in this part of the system. I have the luck, I have 3 sons, they are all millennials, they are forcing me to buy solar panels. Yeah, because not of the return on investment, because we should so do something for the environment. This is the way of thinking of the millennials. The millennials are about 23. These are the new hospitality people on board of yachts. And they think differently than I am doing. And this is something also we should consider. And this is something I want to mention because I didn't hear a lot about the crew, and they are a very important player in this field.
Absolutely. But from the refit perspective, the impact is less in the sense that it's not operation of the boat. So the crew for us, we're taking care in a different way. So we treat them, they are at home. So it's a different care. So we have the customer care department, we are doing activities, we are facilitating things for them, even trainings. So, but it's nothing to do with the refit in the sense that it's not in the equation for us. So that they have a perfect impact on, sorry, during the operations in terms of sustainability, emissions and so on the behavior and the operations, yes. On the refit side, I see it quite limited, so probably I'm not getting the point. But, so if you can go further.
Hi, Oliver. I have a question, and it's linked also to your first remark and something you say about the conversion plan. It's to know the usage of the yacht. So what are the data sources you use? Is it on the power management system or the engine ECU, the crew, the management company? What is the base of your data?
Study, well, typically we need to really understand the operational profile. So how many nautical miles they cover in a year, how many weeks the guests are on board, are they going, how much within the year they are actually on shore power or at anchor or relocating in between. So this is all the information which is going to drive us into a specific solutions. Hotel load measurements is also super important for us just to actually understand because that's, it's a black box. We don't have any data into it. It's really, really hard. Even on new builds, it's just super hard to get. Everyone's got his own opinion about it. So these are the major data we need to be able to come with one specific solution or another one. We need also anything from fuel usage is really important. Because it will tell us, we can use that as a comparative element, and we can tell you, well, next year you're gonna consume less, or we can translate that into CO2 emissions as well. So from this kind of operation profile and fuel usage, we can actually determine the best solution and gives the benefit to the owner, really.
Okay. Concerning the hotel load, it's something we can help because we are working on a marine engine, and nowadays they have ECU and they are log files, and we can really tell what the engine is seeing as a load and telling you that's the real load profile of the engine. And with this you can maybe downsize, or you can really add a real value to your analysis to optimize the yacht, in fact.
Yeah, I think, for us, we're really happy to take any kind of information, but we are not, we won't contract you. I think you'll be contracting through the management company or the shipyard. But yeah, these kind of information are really useful for us, definitely.
We move from no data at all to we don't need yet accurate data. Just to focus on the trend is already enough. Because we see that the top consumer on board is the HVAC. So if we want to do an impact, we focus on the priority, for instance. Is it 45, 60, 65%? It depends on the yachts, it depends on the usage, the location and everything. But roughly the trend is the HVAC is one of the top consumer. So that's something that we can focus on. then the engines, you had the load profile, like you say, but this is happy now that the builders start to get the data about it, but it's quite clear, yeah. The yacht run maybe 50% of the max power, which is quite a safety, we wouldn't fit 100% of the average power. For the safety, they need to escape a storm, they need to escape something fast, etc. So they need this extra power. So I wouldn't say that we can decrease the size of the propulsion, for instance. But we can a bit, probably.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really depends on the usage. There is, as we call it, statistical vessel, which is probably 90 or 80% of the fleet, but there is the 20 other persons that will probably relocate most of the time. The owner spend a lot of time on board. Are you going to the Gulf? No, we're just staying in the Atlantic circuit. All this kind of information, will help us to really get a good grip on the design and make sure we under the best solution for it, really.
Let me come back to the crew, because I feel bad. I don't know if I explain myself good. So, yeah, what I wanted to say is that on the refit, there's not much we can do besides taking care of the persons. But absolutely, they have an important role on the operations of the boat. I don't know if that was clear or not, because I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Really?
No, what I want to mention is the crew is getting more and more a vote in the quality of the yacht. And if they don't like it, they leave it. Because they have enough opportunities to go to a healthier vessel, to a silent vessel, etc., etc. And if we are desperately looking for qualified people in crew, then this could be a subject to point out also to the customer. Okay, if you want to have your crew and you have qualified crew, you should perform and you should improve the working circumstance for the crew. Yeah. If you're a qualified crew, you can start any way you want. So why you should have a lousy yacht if you can choose a green one and
we will start a new project for the crew, refit for the crew.
No, but
we'll start immediately.
But if you see where we started, for my feeling, 5 years ago we started with sustainability. For me, it's 5 years ago. Can you imagine if we are busy now 5 years and we reach this point already, how it will be over 5 years from now? Because it goes like this. So I expect within 2 years, a lot of ports, marinas, they have local regulations. If you're polluting, you're not allowed to come in. If you're noisy, you're not allowed to go in certain areas where whales are breeding or something like that. So this is something that we have to consider. And this is really going that fast, like in the same way as the technology curve, for sure.
Yeah, but I think in terms of refit, it has to come from the management or the owners to tell us what is the real issue about the boat. When it comes down to noise and vibration, for instance, we need to understand, is that the propulsion? So we need to look at the propulsion train. Is that from the air conditioning in the crew cabin? Are they too noisy or things like that? Or just simply from the emission? So, it's all the data we need but we can provide solution for most of these issues, and they can be done in a refit stage potentially. But that's all the information we gather in the pre-feasibility stage, I'd say.
About the crew, everyone hear me? Or? Yeah. So regarding the crew, the owner, most often, if not all the time, they've got big consideration for the crew. And it's true that for us, when we want to encourage improvements on the living condition on board, or the crew training, for instance, they're quite responsive and they understand it. Because they've got an affect with the crew, they're happy, they want to retain the crew, they understand that the crew that stays on board, is the knowledge, that's the intellect of the yacht. So this, they quite matter it. And yes, we do pay attention to that, like we do pay attention to the MLC, for instance. So this is, and because we talk about human, is much more, the response is better from the owner. So yes, every yacht is in competition. So every owner understands that to get the best crew, they have to provide the best solution. And they also understand now that it's not a question of salary. There are a lot of data now from
key crew, etc., that make studies, and clearly, you know, like us, the salary is not the main question. You know, is the purpose, is the environment, is the condition, is the training, the leadership, the respect, and all this, the teamwork. So all this is quite understood by the owner, you know. And I would say that probably the condition improved quite well, you know. But there is a fact that the crew also understand, the experienced crew understand that, or they commit to the yachting industry and the purpose of the yachting industry, which is the pleasure. And so when they're on board and the leadership is good, they do not put the system much in question. They follow the instruction. So if the instruction is to keep the jacuzzi at 40 degrees, because that's what the owner likes, they want to please the owner. And it doesn't cross their mind to start negotiating with the owner. They will never do that, you know. They raise the question to us and say, do you think that we can maybe negotiate a degree or two less? Or, you know, the owner is concerned about the noise on the cabin or things like that. But for them, they commit. They want to deliver the service. That's the hospitality side. And this, once they're on board, they commit to it without too much in question. You know? But that's the leadership on board between the captain and everyone, the management also. Yeah. But you're right, it's an important question now. Like we do now evaluate more the training for the crew also.
Thank you. Sorry to ask. I have this question about the organization of the stakeholders within this industry. I'm into treasury management, so I see the invoice before I see the invoice. And we went through a refit which went not very well. And I have a question for when you buy a yacht, which need refits, is there a way for the broker to freeze the price of the yacht for some weeks so they can discuss with the companies that will do the refit and buy some time to have a better vision of what they will be buying or projecting their project? So you can't buy yachts because it's not in your model, but at least you should have a time frame where you could advise the client on the purchase of a yacht. That's what when I want to buy a flight ticket, I can lock the price for 24 hours by paying a small fee. Would it be possible to have this kind of setup? So as a ship builder, you can give your advice, or you give, as a broker, you give the client the time to have a review on the technical part on what he wants.
Well, there should be a professional pre-purchase survey that's done, which should highlight all those features, and then you could send that document to a shipyard, which they could then quote on, if you like. But there should normally be sufficient time between the, that pre-purchase survey and the signing of the deal to do that.
The pre-purchase survey is make sure that the yacht is correctly as it is, but the client wants his own emotional setup in this yacht. Right. We should give him his time, because so we might use the appropriate motors, electricity. He can project himself in the yacht. Not, I know what I'm buying, but I want to project myself as well. It would be like the yachting industry is keeping the user experience as high as possible, not turning a user experience into an operator experience. So give him the chance to project himself in this process.
The buyer's got 7 days from when the surveyor gets off the boat. The surveyor's got to make a report, the buyer's got to get the report, digest it, and if they decide to go ahead, they've got another 7 days to renegotiate or plan. So best case scenario is 14 days if everybody's super quick. That's probably not enough time to work out what a refit's going to cost.
That's the choice of the brokers.
No, it's the contract.
But that's a choice. It's a commercial contract between a seller and a buyer. Maybe there should be something in between to give a chance. Because what's happening in my case, we bought a 24 meter for 300K. We had a refit for 800K, and we lose perspective on this yacht. We sold it back for less than half because it was not matching with the expected experience of the user.
Sometimes the refit's worth more than the boat. But the market value post-refit isn't worth the refit.
He should have kept the yacht for himself, but he was not happy. He bought a new one, which is bigger fleet, bigger, not able, no ability to work on the sustainable part without having to be a committed player?
If this question crossed what we were talking about, the ship owner and the commercial shipping. The commercial shipping, the ship owner, they own a fleet, and so they make a plan, they do their cost analysis, etc. On the yachting, so the client fell in love with the yacht, you know. But if you ask the question to the shipyard, for instance, during these 7 days of reflection, shall I make an offer or not? Well, if you ask those guys, they only see a part of the equation because they see their costs, so they can estimate, okay, we should take 3 to 4 months to replace the interior and etc. But for instance, they cannot tell you the cost of class drawings, the study, you know, to get all the drawings stamped by class and the approval process, because they're not the client representative. So for instance, if they say, should take 400,000, you will miss maybe a 50K on that because of the class. So this is why it's who can bring the question. You know, for instance, the brokers, they've got an opinion, the shipyards, they've got another one. Maybe us as management, we do see the full equation, and even if we take some safety on that. But if you want a bold figure, we can easily buy, you know, gross tonnage, for instance, a hull extension, or a hull strengthening, you know, we can easily say, you know, it's X per meter square, or it's X per gross tonnage, you know. A deck transformation is between 60K to 80K per gross tonnage. A hull extension is probably about 60K per meter, or sorry, a million a meter, for instance. So that's the ball figure you can get.
And even more, I think that ballpark figure probably is not sorting out the issue, because I think that potentially what I understand from you is that the owner doesn't know what he will want to do with the boat. So
he was really
the responsibility is given to the shipyard to give a ballpark figure about something that not even the owner knows what he will is looking after. So it's quite a tricky question.
I know it's tricky. I know there's no direct answer, but we are talking about sustainability, keeping the fleet limited with second-hand boats, make the user experience the best possible. So giving him time to have some analysis on what you can really do on the yacht compared to what he wants.
On the sustainability side, what I can tell you is that what we are talking about here in time is between 4 to 8 weeks, so 6 to 8 weeks for the report.
Compared to 14 days.
Well, that's, if you want a proper analysis, you require time. So you need to gather information, you need to do test on board. Or, another thing, just inviting the brokers, they can ask for it and sell it together with the boat. So that's the potentiality for the upgrade. It's a huge investment. No, it's not a huge investment compared with the transaction. Also can be included in the selling price. So, and you're gaining time.
Giving you the time to deliver a good analysis, to project the user experience into the future.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's just putting that process in an early stage. So if I'm a broker and my client wants to sell a boat, okay, they are very good, but potentially don't do it in 3 weeks. So probably it's time to suggest to do this investment and sell it as a added value. So you can inform the potential buyer about the condition. So besides the survey, which is currently the condition of the boat, we're talking about the potentiality of the upgrade of the boat. That should be done before, because otherwise we'll not have time.
I think it's also it's a mindset in terms of it's not just the purchase price, it's what is the access price to go yachting that next summer. So it's the capex of the boat plus the refit. So actually you're thinking that's your ticket to get cruising. It's not the purchase price and then how much the refit is. It's an access price, I think.
Okay. I mean, ultimately, this is quite a new service. We've been developing it over the last year or so. we've done a lot of work with suppliers to do sort of vetting, to make sure that the solutions that we're offering are ones that actually will have a benefit, not just, as I said earlier, not just in terms of sustainability, but in terms of performance, comfort, and costs. What I'd like to ask everyone here, obviously we're all in the same boat, excuse the pun, what can we do to help implement these solutions? Obviously we're providing a service, but I'd like to know what, A, your thoughts are on this service, and what we can do all together in terms of supporting this transition.
For me as a supplier, it's very important that from time to time I'm in MB92 in this case for updating the project manager with the latest possibilities, the latest standards of the equipment. Yeah, incidentally, next week I have a meeting in La Ciotat with MB92 with the project managers to instruct them about emission and exhaust after cleaning systems. But this should be done by a lot of suppliers to train your people and to inform them about the latest standard of the equipment and the possibilities. So that's the thing I ask from you, is be open for train your project managers for the latest standards.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and something that we have clear in mind that is you as a provider are not in the brain of the project manager. You have few chances to be contracted. That's true. But okay, in this context, that is not talking about regular services, regular relationship with subcontractors. I'm talking more about the technology and new upgrades in the sustainability thing. We cannot go in that direction. We cannot have I think we have around 50 few project managers in Barcelona and more or less the same in La Ciotat. We cannot have 100 people that are working in refit, like refit is 6 to 8 months, like bang, 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 having trainings about everything. So we need to filter a little bit the options, and that's why we are canalizing all that through the procurement department. So then if something is, well, I'm talking about procurement, but also Mark, our sustainability coordinator, is also overseeing these meetings with the subcontractor, just to understand that, yes, it's a technology that is proven, but we need to ensure that as a concept, by implementing this solution is really something positive for the impact as a whole. But okay, we're filtering that because we cannot have these people that are really focused on delivering refit and having trainings about everything.
What else can we do to help?
Open source. So any other shipyards or refit yards or industry people can follow a plan or a roadmap or copy or be inspired. I think you're doing that, but more of it.
I would love that anyone in the industry copy our proposal. So, I mean, for us, it's a service proposal. So we can just be here in Barcelona and La Ciotat sitting down because this will happen. And for us would be, okay, we don't do an investment and it's either in 4 years' time or 10 years' time that we'll have the shipyard full capacity because everyone will be asking for that. So I think that there's not enough capacity in the service industry to do what we need to do to upgrade the fleet. So if any other shipyard can want to start doing that, I'm really happy. I will not share what we are doing with any single subcontractor because I guess that there's some sort of investment, well, some sort of huge investment done, but I'm happy to share with them our proposal. So I think it has to happen.
I think communication, and it won't happen overnight, but as you get more and more projects, then I think what would be fantastic to do is to publish the information as case studies, so you can present to captains and they can present to owners and say, look at the savings, look at the CO2 reductions, look at my environmental reduction in environmental impact. So I think going forward, those will be really valuable assets which you can use to, sell this kind of service into the industry.
Yeah, Absolutely. We, as a part of the Water Revolution Foundation, we are already participating in all that. The difficulty of communicating in our industry is about the NDAs, so it's never easy to explain what you are doing in terms of something tangible, okay? But I'm pretty sure that once we start with the technical data analysis and then we can reassess, we can publish the benefits of going that direction without giving information about the yacht.
I think we get a bit sensitive about this because you can anonymize these things and say, you know, this 45-meter, you don't have to name a boat, you just say it's a size, or, you know, a 45-meter aluminium fast yacht, and we've made these changes. That's all people need to know.
You're absolutely right. But there's IIS, there's social media, and there's a lot of pressure on our shoulders of privacy. So we would love to, I mean, Julia would love to publish and do videos. You know what happens? Everyone that comes to our facility is like, wow, that's amazing. Why are you not publishing that, making videos? And I say, because we can't. So we're not allowed to. But okay. We will find a way to share the data, at least to engage the people to go in that direction. So,
yeah, I mean, the easy way to do that is to maybe, you know, after the first, you just rebrand completely the yacht and you make out a concept out of it and you market it in the market that way. So it's unrecognizable.
I'm just thinking we have the private yachts in our head, but the charter yachts, right? They need publicity, they need promotion, they need to be able to explain what I've been doing in the shipyard. So that's the direction I'm going to take for marketing, I think. Yeah. Right? Do you need to sell that, no? Okay.
Are you speaking to Tim?
No, not yet. I will.
I have a question maybe for Malcolm, because you know very well the topic. For the second hand?
For the second hand, there will be less pressure from the financing side. The banks put the pressure on the new build because they finance it, so they want to look green and comply. The second hand, we discussed about the second hand and the pressure for the refit, the upgrades, but actually the finance is not so, don't put the pressure on the, so where will come from the pressure for the second hand market, for the existing yachts, you think? From the insurance side? The insurance will put the pressure as the banks to have a greener yacht, for instance, or?
It's a possibility. I mean, the insurance brokers or industry is also part of the Poseidon Principles, but they're essentially gathering data at the moment. There's no penalty if you're a more heavily polluting ship, but one can see that once they've got that data in the future, they will also use that to assess whether they want to insure that vessel or not. So all of these things are chipping away on the future valuation of both new and old vessels, yeah.
And it was mentioned earlier that actually our carbon footprint is the carbon footprint of the fleet. But as a company, does it depend on the scale of the company, on the revenue? What are the criteria to fall under the restriction or the obligation?
So with the ETS, I mean, essentially you'll have an obligation to report the fuel consumption. They don't look at electrical consumption within the ETS, but they do look at fuel consumption. So the way they will do it is that you, throughout the year, you will be reporting on your fuel, and then the following year you'll have to offset that by buying a carbon credit, basically, and it's incumbent on the operator to pay that money. Now, in the shipping industry, they would normally charge it off to the carrier, the shipper, or to the charterer, and in the yachting industry, we'll have to do the same. But it'll be your responsibility.
No, I think just to conclude, if there's anyone that has any more points to add, Okay. I just wanted to say that how this is constantly going to evolve. This is a project that we started and it's going to evolve and it's going to change as new solutions come onto the market, as regulation takes effect. Obviously, as we've said, we want to be ahead of the curve. One of the things that we want to encourage, and I know there's a lot of suppliers in the room, we want to get people to contact us if there are solutions that we think that can be added to this portfolio. We want to hear from you. Ultimately, we want to be, adding these to the vessels to make these improvements happen. So, that would be my closing remark. I don't know if you had anything.
I just want to thank you for participating. I think it was very interesting conversations, and yeah, I hope that you like our approach, and if so, just contact us, either if you're a supplier or management or broker or whatever. Okay, we're here to serve the industry.
No final word. Thank you.